There's a recognition, a growing recognition in Louisiana and other places that it's impossible to make the area look like it did in the 30s, for example. And we have so many rich and important, deep cultural communities all along the coast. How to choose who adapts and who moves and who stays is really, I think, the most difficult set of challenges.
We have Vietnamese communities, Cambodian, a lot of historic black communities, in addition to Cajun communities, and these are the people who will soon be forced to move away from the coast because of their vulnerability to flooding and hurricanes.
It's just sort of these one-offs and folks going different places. I'm really concerned about what it is that we're losing, the preservation of the language, the culture, the music, the people.
This particular community we live in, I refer to as downtown Phoenix because of our rich history here. After Hurricane Katrina, we rebuilt our community on our own because we knew that we were left out. New Orleans, you know, Big Easy, big city, everybody looked at, but who would look at a rural community? I mean, you drove down, it wasn't there for anybody to see.
Our population has, since Katrina, has dwindled significantly, but we do have people that are coming back in. Every year we get another family back into Plaquemines Parish, so we're very proud of that. We're a close-knit community. Everybody's related to everybody. Everybody knows everybody.
So we don't have no plan in the leaving. Our blood is in this land.
Within the $50 billion Coastal Master Plan, there's $6 billion that if they had that $6 billion would go towards helping people to raise their houses or flood-proof their businesses. And unfortunately, though, that's not a priority. It doesn't seem for the state. The state has been putting money into coastal restoration projects and flood control elsewhere. It's just not an easy thing to do to figure out how to give money to people in order to protect them.
The people who live on the coast, they live down there for a reason. I mean, their livelihoods depend on it. There's a sense of place, a sense of community down there. There's a really strong tie to the places of the coast, to their histories. In some cases, you have fishing families who have passed this tradition on through generations.
We will be affected by the Mid-Breton Sound diversion, which is predominantly about 12, 15 miles from where we are from here. Keep in mind, whatever helps our coast, I'm okay with, but I don't want to destroy the industry that we work so hard to, to work on, because we live off of the seafood industry. We live off fishing, and if that affects that, then it affects the life of a lot of people that live in this area.
I hate the way that the depopulation of some of our deep coastal areas have happened. People have been motivated by frustration or just emotions because, all right, I've flooded 4 times in the last 15 years. I'm out of here. This is ridiculous.
After Katrina, you don't want to be like war or zone, bad. They had about 30 people, families here. Now we got, I want to say maybe 12. A lot of people moved to Mississippi and Texas. They're not coming back.
Historically, people in Louisiana have always been extremely mobile. They would move towards the coast for work, and then when storms come, they would move more inland. So it was kind of this back and forth. Obviously, things are different now. People have mortgages now, things like that that actually tie them more tightly to the coast. People who work in fisheries or the shipyards or some of these coastal industries that are down on the coast, they have to be close enough that they can still access this work.
Prior to Hurricane Katrina, we had Hurricane Betsy and Hurricane Camille, and flooding was always a problem because we're so close to the Mississippi River and we're surrounded by the Gulf of Mexico.
Having families nearby when storms come is one thing that residents rely on more than anything else, almost more than government assistance. If you have that strong social network, that's what helps people become more resilient and helps communities remain on the coast.
A lot of people ask us, why do you stay here? You don't have a grocery store, you don't have a Walmart, you don't have a Winn-Dixie, you don't have it doesn't matter. We have love, we have a relationship. We're safe, we're secure. I mean, you don't know about Phoenix, Louisiana because we don't have a high crime rate.
It's a much more complicated issue than, do we stay or do we go?
And unfortunately, this approach that's happening is just happening, rather than coming in and saying, okay, we're going to do a deliberate approach like was attempted with the Ile de Jean Charles, where we say, okay, your 300-member community, your tribe, your town, we're going from here to here. It's a cut and paste where you can preserve those relationships, that community, that culture, that history.
So many changes in a lifetime, you know, and there's so many people that moved away from the bayou. Kids get older, the generations change and they move away, and with the erosion and stuff, and you know, as the water comes in, you know, there's more flooding, and a lot of people that, you know, older people, it's like they stay on the bayou and that's their livelihood. They, you know, they don't want to move and go anywhere.
There was a $48 million grant given to the state of Louisiana to help relocate residents of Ile de Jean Charles, which is an island that is rapidly eroding. This island has dramatically shrunk in size, and people have moved off the island every hurricane. A lot of people who are left just don't have the means to move off the island.
We lose a lot of land each day. You know, it's washing away with the erosion and things like that.
If you're talking about areas that are so historically significant, that just have all this incredible history and culture, and you're just going to allow them, okay, well, these guys are going to move here and these folks are going to move there, and you're suddenly taking this concentration of that culture and that history, and you're displacing it.
What we have, we were given from those who came before us. So what's still here, we have to advocate for, because we have to pass on as a legacy to the generations coming after us. We're going to continue to look for ways to stay here and have conversations outside powers that come into this area that, you know, propose change, projects, diversions. I mean, whatever they're proposing, we're part of that mix, whether we are for or against it.
The program itself hasn't had a lot of participation. I think, like, of the 100 people who live on the island, only 20 people have even participated in a survey. They also say that they don't feel very well heard by the state. So this is problematic, because this is supposed to be the first time that the federal government is giving a community money to relocate because of the threat of climate change, and it's not going so well.
These issues around sea level rise and subsidence and land loss do not pick and choose their communities with some sort of particular direction, right? They're impacting everybody across the coast. So the initiative and the planning around the Ile de Jean Charles community is important, because it is one of the first to receive this level of federal funding. And I think as everybody who's involved and watching that process, it's so difficult.
If you go to Oklahoma, the places, you got tornadoes. You go to California, you got, you know, earthquakes. So everywhere there's some natural disaster. So we understand natural disaster exists. So we never plan on running away because of natural disaster, because that's been our life. So we're pushing for future generation that you do coastal restoration protection and create barriers in the wetland.
We need to work on our wetlands. We are first line of defense to New Orleans, and a lot of people don't understand that. Help us help you. We are the reason that you don't get impacted so much by a hurricane that comes up the Mississippi River. We're the first line of defense. So help us build that back up.
We've been really dedicated to not just how do we protect our way of life and our coast from the physical and natural side, but also from the social and human side of it. Because we, of course, have this recognition that we are all living with nature, living with water, and that our economies and our way of life depend on it.
Like a little piece of heaven, you know. I don't guess you got no place else better than this, you know.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here, and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.